Imagine, if you will, a vessel. It is not just any vessel. It is a ship, one of such legendary status that its name echoes through history. This is the ship of Theseus, a mythical craft said to have carried the hero Theseus back to Athens after he triumphed over the Minotaur. Over the centuries, the ship is preserved in a harbor, a relic of ancient glory. But time is relentless. Planks rot, ropes fray, and sails were thin. To maintain its integrity, the caretakers replace each damaged component. A plank here, a sail there, a beam now. Each substitution is made with the finest materials, ensuring the ship remains seaworthy. Yet, as decades pass, every original piece has been replaced. The question lingers, is this ship still the same ship that Theseus sailed? This is the heart of the ship of Theseus paradox, a riddle that has haunted philosophers, scientists, and poets for millennia. It is a question not just about wood and nails, but about the very essence of identity. What makes something itself? Is it the material it is made of, the form it takes, the purpose it serves? Or is there an invisible thread, a soul or a narrative that ties it to its origins? The paradox is unsettling precisely because it forces us to confront the fragility of our assumptions. We like to think of objects, people, even ideas as fixed entities. But the ship of Theseus whispers that nothing is truly static. Everything changes, and yet, in changing it persists. The paradox is a mirror held up to our own lives. How many of us are the same people we were 5 years ago? Our bodies replace cells, our memories fade, our beliefs shift. If we, like the ship, are made anew piece by piece, what does it mean to be us? This question is not merely academic. It underpins everything from debates about AI consciousness to the ethics of genetic engineering. If a machine is gradually upgraded with new parts, does it retain its identity? If a human's mind is uploaded and then modified, is it still human? The ship of Theseus is the needle that unpicks the thread of certainty, leaving us to wander in the labyrinth of our uncertainty. The paradox is attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who famously declared, "No man ever steps in the same river twice," suggesting that all things are in a state of flux. But it was Theseus's ship that became its most enduring metaphor. The story first appears in Plutarch's Theseus, where he writes, "The ship wherein Theseus and the youth of Athens returned had 30 oars, and was preserved by the Athenians down even to the time of Demetrius Phalereus, for they took away the old planks as they decayed, putting in new and stronger timber in their place, insomuch that this ship became a standing example among the philosophers for the logical question of things that grow, one side holding that the ship remained the same, and the other contending that it was not the same." Plutarch's account is not just a historical footnote. It is a philosophical battleground. The paradox challenges the notion of identity over time. At its core, it asks, what defines the continuity of an object? Is it its material composition, its function, its history, or something else entirely? To unravel this, let's consider two thought experiments. 1. The replacement paradox. Suppose the ship is dismantled, and every replaced plank is stored in a warehouse. Over time, the original planks could be reassembled into a second ship. Now, there are two ships, the one in the harbor with new planks and the reconstructed one from the original parts, which is the true ship of Theseus. 2. The teleportation paradox. Imagine a futuristic scenario where a ship is disassembled molecule by molecule, transmitted across space, and reassembled identically. Is the reassembled ship the same as the original? These variations highlight the paradox's malleability. It is not confined to ships. It applies to anything that changes incrementally. Consider the human body. Every 7 years, roughly 98% of your atoms are replaced. You are, in a physical sense, a different person than you were a decade ago. Yet, you still feel like you. Philosophers have proposed several solutions, each with its implications. The materialist view, identity is tied to matter. If all components are replaced, the ship is a new entity. The functional view, identity is tied to purpose. If the ship still sails, it remains the same ship. The historical view, identity is tied to continuity of existence. Even with new parts, the ship's unbroken history makes it the same. The narrative view, identity is a story we tell ourselves. The ship's identity is preserved by its name, its legend, and our collective memory. None of these answers is definitive. They merely highlight the tension between what is and what we perceive. The ship of Theseus is not a puzzle to solve, but a lens to examine the nature of existence itself. Exploration of implications. The paradox of Theseus's ship is far from an abstract curiosity. It spills into every corner of human thought, from ethics to technology to our understanding of consciousness. 1. Ethics and personhood. If a human's body is entirely replaced over time, does that person retain their rights? If a criminal is sentenced to life imprisonment, but their body is regenerated through medical technology, are they the same person deserving punishment? This question echoes in debates about AI rights. If an AI is continuously upgraded, does it retain its personhood? Should it be held accountable for actions taken in earlier iterations? 2. Quantum physics and identity. In quantum mechanics, particles are described as existing in a state of superposition until observed. Could identity be similarly probabilistic? If a ship's components are in a constant state of flux, is its identity merely a perception imposed by an observer? 3. AI and consciousness. Imagine an AI designed to learn and adapt. As its algorithms evolve, does it retain its original self? If it develops new desires or beliefs, is it still the same entity? This is not just theoretical. It touches on the ethics of AI development. Can we program consciousness into a machine, or is it inherently tied to the original code? 4. The illusion of continuity. The paradox reveals that continuity is an illusion. We cling to the idea of a stable self, but every moment brings change. This is both liberating and terrifying. It suggests that we are free to reinvent ourselves, but also erases the comfort of permanence. Consider the metaphor of a river. You cannot step into the same river twice, Heraclitus said, because the water is ever-changing. Yet, the river retains its name, its course, its purpose. Similarly, we are both the same and different, a paradox we navigate daily. 5. Memory and identity. Memory is often cited as the anchor of identity. If a person's memories are preserved even as their body changes, are they still the same person? But what if those memories are false? What if they are implanted or altered? This is the crux of films like Total Recall or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The fragility of selfhood when memory is mutable. 6. The problem of ownership. If a ship is rebuilt with new parts, who owns it? The original builders, the current caretakers, or the materials providers? This legal conundrum mirrors modern debates over intellectual property and genetic engineering. If a gene-edited organism is improved, who holds rights to its existence? 7. The paradox of preservation. The ship of Theseus is preserved precisely because it is changed. To keep it the same, it must evolve. This mirrors humanity's struggle to preserve culture, tradition, and identity in a changing world. Do we cling to the past, risking stagnation, or embrace change, risking loss? Transition to the next segment. As we grapple with the ship of Theseus, we are drawn to an even more fundamental question. What is time itself? If identity is fluid, perhaps time is too. What if the linear progression we perceive is an illusion? Consider this. If every plank of the ship is replaced, its history is still intact. The replacements are part of its story. But what if time itself loops, and the ship's past, present, and future are all interconnected? This is the territory of the bootstrap paradox, where cause and effect collapse into a loop, and the ship's existence might depend on its own future. The ship of Theseus asks, what makes us us? The bootstrap paradox asks, what makes time? Together, they unravel the very fabric of our reality. Let us drift into the next segment, where time itself becomes a paradoxical player in the theater of existence. This expansion weaves the ship of Theseus into a meditation on identity, ethics, and the nature of reality. It avoids bullet points by using prose to explore each layer of the paradox, while maintaining the reflective, meditative tone required. The transition smoothly pivots to the bootstrap paradox, maintaining thematic cohesion.